And what brought you here?
Just work.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, usual stuff, just work.
Government, I'm assuming, nonprofit government.
I used to work for the government, now I work for a nonprofit.
Oh, okay, that's typically kind of the pathways here, either one way or the other, nonprofit to government. How do you like DC from Texas?
I really like DC. Like, I want to stay here. I'm not looking to move away.
What makes you like DC?
I think just like over the years I've found a really good group of friends and people than Mayoral.
So what do you want to see her do? If she could do one thing in the city, what would you like to see Janice George do?
I think she's focused on like affordable housing.
Affordable housing?
Yeah, affordable like cost of living for people, for everybody.
Yo, where you from, my man?
Unfortunately, I'm from here.
What did you say? Unfortunately,
DC. I hate DC.
Why? DC a great town, man.
Nah, I seen like the people in DC, they kind of suck. So like DC, it's just I just seen a lot of BS in DC. Like I've been through a lot. Like
no shit.
Like I hate dealing with the other type of black folk, if that makes sense.
What do you mean? I don't know. All of them black to me.
Niggas.
All right, we're gonna try to get through a DC mayoral forum hearing. This should be very interesting. My mother actually hit me today. She said, you got to review this. So without further ado, we jump right into it.
Okay, I got to read off because I got to get this part right. I am here to share the rules for the day. These were developed by our elections committee members. And the members of our elections committee were Robert Barton, Shania Loanea, Monica Martina Lopez, Dante O'Hara, Emily Siegel, Samantha Trumbull, and Jamila White. Could you all please stand to be acknowledged? Just raise your hand if you were on our elections committee, y'all. These folks have been working so hard to produce today and our entire endorsement process. So our program today, the Mayoral Forum, will come first with the candidates for mayor, followed by the candidates for delegate. We're excited to welcome Katia Stitt of WPFW as our moderator for the Delegates Forum, the Mayoral Forum. And Sam Collins of the Washington Informer will join us a little bit later as the delegate forum moderator. Please be sure to support WPFW and the Informer, our local independent media. It's so important now more than ever. The elections committee and the moderators have worked together to develop questions. There will not be an opportunity for rebuttal. Mayoral Forum and the delegate to ask a question. Write your question on the electing the question. Though you did not, you can send 1-6 voting, and they will bring in terms or community members their endorsements. Be willing to.
¿Quiere interpretación al español? Estoy con mi colega, allí mi colega puede saludar. Estamos con el equipo portátil, entonces si alguien quiere interpretación al español, por favor, que venga a hablar con nosotros, podamos entregar el equipo. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. We also want to thank all of you for joining us here today. We want to thank the candidates for making time. We know it's a busy endorsement season. And with that, I'm going to turn it to Katia to get us started.
Thank you very much, Alex. And thank you all for being here. We're going to jump right into it and welcome candidates Ford, McDuffie, I'm not speaking in the order you are in, Goodweather, and George. We appreciate you being here.
At the mayoral level, even though they could have been. And so by the time they come to me, they've already gone to the council for help, they've already gone to the mayor, and they come to me because I'm the only one with a proven track record of bringing accountability to the government. I represent DC residents against the District of Columbia government and against the federal government. And by the grace of God, I'm very successful, and my track record speaks to that, and I'm the only candidate in this race that brings that track record and that experience here today. So I look forward to sharing my answers, my platforms, my views with all of you. Thank you, and thanks, Katia.
Thank you very much, Candidate Ford. Candidate McDuffie, you are next.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Pastor. Thank you to the church. My name is Kenyon McDuffie. I am a fourth-generation Washingtonian, a son of this city. I grew up during some of the toughest times in our city's history. I was fortunate to grow up and escape prison, to escape death during a time when we were the murder capital of the United States, during a time when we had a crack epidemic,
And that's very interesting there. Here's a mayoral candidate, and he said he was very fortunate to escape prison or death. Very interesting. It kind of shows you where he's coming from.
At a time when there was a war on drugs. I was fortunate after high school to try to figure out my way in life, but I struggled mightily. The thing that changed the odds for me was an opportunity. I got an opportunity to carry mail with the United States Postal Service and allowed me to save up money, to pay my way through college, and then to go on to be a prosecutor, a civil rights attorney, and eventually a member of the Council of the District of Columbia.
This is a typical black career pathway here. Government job. He got his government job before college, but typically a government job is in their future.
But what's important for you all to know, public service is not a job for me. It is my passion. It is my life's work. None of these people on this stage, my fight is not with them. My fight is with Donald Trump and the people in Congress who make it hard for us to live, who are snatching up our immigrant neighbors off the streets. My fight is with them. And I'm running to fight and deliver for all DC. That means all 700,000 of our residents in all 8 wards, and I'm fighting to make this city a city that is safer, that is more opportunity rich, that is more affordable for the people who've been left behind. I'm running to give voice to the voiceless and to make sure that this is a city that works for everybody. Thank you all for being here. Let's go win this race.
Thank you, candidate McDuffie. Next we'll have candidate George.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am
You may remember references to this black woman. There was a lady on this screen, a couple ladies that we interviewed in street interviews. This is the lady that they were all in support of here.
East Louis George, a third-generation Washingtonian, a proud graduate of DC Public Schools and Howard Law, and more importantly, Pierce's mom. And I am running for mayor to do what I've done for the last 5 years at the council, and as an attorney and an organizer, and that's put people first. This election is about a simple question. In this moment of crisis, who do you trust to show up for all of DC residents in all 8 wards? People right now in this city are feeling the squeeze from every place. Rent is too high. Utilities are too high. Childcare is expensive. And families are being pushed out of neighborhoods that they built. And at the same time, Donald Trump, ICE, and Republicans in Congress have determined that DC residents don't deserve self-determination, dignity, and democracy. I reject that completely. That's why I have been on the ground with DC residents. That's why I've been in the halls of Congress defending DC home rule. That's why I have been fighting to end cooperation between MPD and ICE. That's why I fought against rent hikes. That's why I fought for our educators. That's why I have fought for our students. That's why I have fought for our tenants and for working families who too often feel like we have a government that puts profit over people. I am running for mayor to build a DC where all of our families can thrive, where all our families are safe. This race is very simple choice. This is about action versus inaction.
Time.
Courage versus
Candidate
convenience,
George.
and standing up or selling out.
Time, candidate George.
Thank you.
And you can see that she went a little over her time, and she got the crowd whooped up at the same time.
Can I ask you? Can I ask you? Can I ask you?
I know everyone is very excited today about their candidates, but if we could keep that to a minimum and do it after, because we don't have a lot of time, okay?
As you can see, the mayoral forum is shaping up to be like a YouTube panel.
So everyone, please, thank you. Finally, we'll hear from candidate Goodweather.
I love the excitement here today. I'm Mary Goodweather, and I am running for mayor of DC because I believe we should expect more. Expect more from our city, more from our education, more jobs, more opportunity, and more experienced leadership that executes on real results. I am running for mayor of Washington, D.C. because I love this city. I have built my life in this city. I met my wife here. My 2 amazing children were born and raised in this city. And I have built a career by building. I started doing tenant representation and then helped build neighborhoods, including NOMA, and served on the NOMA Business Improvement District Board, alongside with many other city leaders. And I served in the United States Army as an armor officer.
1 minute.
And I took an oath to the Constitution to serve all Americans, everyone, every single one.
All these things are going to play against him. He built up NOMA, which is an area that is very affluent now. I don't see how this is going to help him. This guy doesn't stand a chance of winning.
While I was working and building my life and building my career, I went to school at night at Johns Hopkins University here in DC and earned an MBA with concentration in finance from Hopkins. And I believe that now is this time in history that we need new leadership. We need a change. We need new ideas, new solutions. And my Jewish values encourage me, dictate to me to come along to repair the world. And I'm going to use my service, my expertise, and all my experience with my values to improve the quality of life of every single Washington, D.C. resident. That is my mission, and I will succeed for you.
Thank you, candidate Goodweather. Next question. Right now, D.C. is voluntarily participating in Trump's D.C. Safe and Beautiful Task Force. This has resulted in federal law enforcement agencies gaining access to sensitive information and our communities. And MPD officers are learning from Trump's police forces. If you become mayor, would that relationship remain the same or change? And if so, how? Candidate McDuffie, we'll start with you.
When I was growing up, it was during a time where federal law enforcement had descended on Washington, D.C. So when I see the National Guard today, it reminds me of the trauma that I've experienced in my own neighborhood. I know what injustice feels like personally, having been arrested 3 times in my own neighborhood as a teenager. It's one of the things that inspired me to become a civil rights lawyer, so that I can fight to protect people's rights. It's one of the things that inspired me to do on the council the Neighborhood Engagement Achieved Results Act, to make sure that we reform our police department and make things more transparent. It's why I put money in the budget to expand access to justice for tenants who live here so that they can have attorneys to represent them when they go up against slumlords. I've always been about justice and fairness.
He just caught my ear there. He's up against the slumlords. No mention of the slum tenants, though. This is the black blind spot that they have to willfully ignore.
And I didn't just start it when I started this campaign. This campaign is not about rhetoric, it is about results. On day one, we're going to end cooperation with ICE and make sure that MPD is keeping communities safe without the help of federal law enforcement. This campaign is not about empty promises to tell you what I'm going to do when I'm mayor. This campaign is about telling you what I've done my entire career on the council for 13 years to give you a taste of what it's going to be like when I'm mayor.
30 seconds. Next, we'll hear from candidate Ford. Thank you, candidate McDuffie.
Yes, thank you. So we're talking about receipts. And to answer the question, no, the relationship would not stay the same. The Safe and Beautiful Task Force, I don't see the city any more safe and beautiful than it was before the president came in. But we're talking about receipts really quick. So I'm the only candidate here that has actually sued the federal government, the United States, and been successful in that. And they already know this about me. And so the relationship, it's impossible to keep that relationship the same. The capitulation that we've seen, kind of the bowing down, the removal of landmarks, like the Black Lives Matter Plaza, the removal of sanctuary city status, all of those things are capitulation to a particular agenda that is anti-democratic. And so for me as a candidate, the answer would obviously be no, because I've litigated against the United States successfully. In fact, they were afraid to go to trial against me and settle both of those cases, one within a week of trial and the other one 30 days before trial. So certainly with a fighter, and this city needs a fighter, and people want fighters. And I have a proven track record of fighting on behalf of district residents and succeeding. So absolutely the relationship would definitely not be the same on day one.
So as you see here, we have 3 fighters and 1 builder, a Jewish builder.
Thank you, candidate Ford. Thank you. Next up, we'll hear from candidate Goodweather.
DC will exit the big and beautiful task force, period. We need to replace it with locally controlled law enforcement. But how do we really solve the problem? Is we need to create opportunity and create a safe city for ourselves. And that is by creating jobs, opportunity. And I will say that I took an oath again to the Constitution, and I put on the uniform, and I served in the National Guard. And what is happening to our city is antithetical to what I served for. And it is antithetical to democracy that disenfranchises 700,000 of us, 700,000 human beings. And now is the time in history, our 250th anniversary, to get more, demand more for our city. We will address our city's problems, and by creating prosperity for every single resident, we will take control of ourselves.
Thank you, candidate Goodweather. Candidate George.
Thank you. As a ward council member, I have seen the terror in our neighborhoods when families have been ripped apart, and I walked outside when an individual was being taken
This lady currently represents a ward where some of my properties are.
by ICE off the street. The terror in our community has been unacceptable. But I want to be transparent that the big, beautiful task force that was created hasn't been creating anything beautiful here in our city for district residents. And as mayor, I will ensure that we are going to operate from a space that anybody who wants to do good for the residents of District of Columbia, I will work with anyone who wants to do good and actually improve the lives and outcomes for district residents. But I will stand up to anyone who brings terror and harm to our community. Now, as an attorney who's worked in the district, I know that we sit on several task force and we work with federal government. Now, I don't want my city left blindly. So I'm going to put some people in the room on the beautiful task force because I want to know if they're coming after our children, if they're coming after our educators, if they are coming after our families, that we are prepared to stand up and fight back. And I'm going to be clear and transparent about what is happening. And I won't lend any DC resources to continue to terrorize our neighborhoods. That's why, as council member, I introduced legislation to end cooperation with MPD and ICE. And that's what I will do on day one as council member. I will be transparent about what is happening, and I will continue to fight for all of DC residents and be strategic and smart in doing so. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate George. Thank you, Candidate George. Next.
So the race is clearly coming down between the two black people, that lady, Janice George, and the guy, the Postal Service guy.
Question. During Trump's first term, Muriel Bowser took a position of defiant opposition. This time, she has been markedly more cooperative. As mayor, how would you approach the relationship with Donald Trump? And we'll start with candidate Goodweather.
You can call me whatever I want. I get called lots of things.
Oh, forgive me. I said Goodwater. Sorry,
No, I've heard it all before. Okay, I'm burning my time. So, look, we knew what Trump was going to do this term based upon what he tried to do during the last term. How would we deal with this administration? I will tell you, first of all, that appeasement doesn't work. We have seen that before in history. How will my administration deal with this administration? With creativity. We have seen litigation have effects, and we will continue that. We will find new tools to be able to ensure that our residents, that our city is not only not terrorized by this administration, but that we get more. Transparency.
1 minute.
Transparency. We need to ensure that everything across every DC agency and every agency that is working alongside DC government, whatever capacity, that everything is visible so that we have the ability to see what is going on. And in that regard, we are going to revamp DC's website and be able to see, regardless of what it is, that everyone sees every contract, every incident with the federal government, federal overreach, visible to everybody. And we will utilize all the resources in this room to fight for each of you.
Thank you, Candidate Goodweather. Candidate McDuffie, your turn.
There's no deal that I would ever cut with President Trump or any president of the United States that will allow them to terrorize vulnerable residents in Washington, D.C. That is not our values in Washington, D.C. That is not how anybody should live, not our immigrant neighbors, not black people, or not anybody else who comes to the District of Columbia. I've spent my career on the council fighting to keep people safe. I've spent my career on the council legislating in a way that fights discrimination when it comes to employment and banning the box, when it comes to fighting discrimination in housing and banning the box in housing, when it comes to making sure that people can't check people's credit in order before they give them jobs. I've spent my entire career on the council legislating in a way that helps DC residents. So there's no deal that I'm going to cut with Trump that will allow him to violate the rights of our residents. But when it comes to growing our economy, when it comes to things like RFK, when it comes to creating thousands of jobs and investing in Ward 7 and 8, then I'm going to be right there to work with any administration to make sure we can fight for DC. When it comes to cutting a deal to see $8 billion of investment to expand Union Station, to create thousands of jobs for young folks in our city, creating career pathways that lead from middle school into the workforce in the District of Columbia, then I'm going to work with any administration to make sure that we fight for DC and deliver more opportunity into communities that haven't seen it.
So basically what he just said there was he's willing to work with Trump or anyone for economic development, but in terms of criminal justice, arresting the criminals, he's not willing to do that with at least this administration.
Thank you, Candidate McDuffie. Candidate George.
Thank you. As a daughter of the district, I know how important it is. I've been fighting for statehood my whole life. And I also know how important it is to fight for a free DC. My strategy is going to be an inside-outside strategy. As an assistant attorney general, I'm going to work with our attorney general offices to use every legal tool we have to fight back in this moment against this administration. I am going to do what I have been doing every day, walking the halls of Congress myself, talking to members of Congress on both sides of the aisle to defend DC autonomy. And the number one thing I hear when I'm walking the halls is this is the first time I am hearing from elected leadership in DC. That is unacceptable, which is why my executive office and mayor will have a federal affairs office who works with me to build genuine relationships so that we can remain filibuster-proof in the House and the Senate and the DC's autonomy. But my outside strategy also includes you. Because when we organize together and the collective power of the people of this city, we can organize and we can fight and we can defend our city and create a free DC. And it's going to be really hard for one of my opponents who's taking Trump dollars to not comply in advance in this moment. Thank you.
And you hear the constant theme about fighting. This is kind of where they are rooted. Their mind is always oriented, and there must be a fight to be had.
Thank you, Candidate George. Next question. Next question. question. Thank you. Cities across the country.
I'm sorry, I did not get a chance to
Oh,
answer this
my
question.
apologies. My apologies. Candidate Ford, please.
Thank you. Pastor, I apologize, but I gotta say this real quick. Anybody know Crime Mob? I'll knuck if you buck. That's what it has to be, DC. I'll knuck if you buck. I've sued the federal government before. I've sued the United States. I've gone up against Department of Justice attorneys before.
So what you see here is, again, 3 blacks that have made their way into be attorneys. We've had attorneys on the line here is some of my tenants. So short of the government, these would probably be my tenants, but they've made a good living in the government.
So I know what it means, right? I know how to fight. But I know
It's that constant theme of fight again.
if you buck. And in the court system, I work with malignant narcissists every day, including the Attorney General's office. And I would say that my approach would be a little different. You know, we have the elected Attorney General, but we might not. And I don't know how many people in this room know this, but the House has already passed legislation to eliminate the Attorney General. So that ain't the play. Not for me. We need all 8 wards to mobilize here and raise up a democratic resistance. They don't like it when I use the word militant, so I won't. But to quote Dr. Martin Luther King,
1 minute.
the reaction to the president when they failed to dismantle segregation using the power of an executive order was to raise up, in Dr. King's words, a militant resistance. So I use the word democratic resistance because we ain't got statehood yet. But in order to get it, all 8 wards have to stand together. And my plan as mayor is to be a bridge builder because we got 8 different cities here, folks.
30 seconds.
Ward 3 don't know what's happening in Ward 8. Ward 8 don't go up to Ward 3 and Ward 2 like that. We're a city amongst ourselves here in 8. I'm a Ward 8 resident, so I know. I got backyard hens. I raise, I have fruit trees. I have a homestead here. But they don't know that we live like that here. They don't know what our reality is here. But as a bridge builder, all 8 wards, all 700,000 residents need to stand together and say to the president, I'll knuck if you buck.
Thank you so much, Candidate Ford. Thank you. Cities across the country are finding creative ways to protect their residents from Trump's forces, as we've seen. What are other cities doing that DC can or should learn from or emulate? And we'll start with Candidate George.
As you all know, DC is unique because we don't have statehood and we don't have our autonomy. But what we have seen is that the leaders in this country who have stood up and been courageous and fought back and who understood that compliance in advance is not a strategy are the ones who've been able to protect their residents the most. And so it is important for us in this moment to recognize that we have collective power. What I would do differently is I've seen our neighbors. They've created what I've seen as school walking buses because they've had to surround children and their families to go into school because they were scared of them being taken by ICE. Our city could have stepped up and said, our people don't need to walk our students to school to be safe. We have buses. We have School Connect. I would have used our resources to support our neighbors in protecting our residents against ICE. We've also seen leadership across this city, across this country. Governor Spanberger, what did she do on one? In cooperation with federal and law enforcement and her law department. And that's what I would do in every executive order that allows our resources and our police officers to be used for federal and law enforcement in our city. That's what we would do. We have seen mayors in Chicago and even next door in Baltimore stand up for their residents and organize with their residents to create a real resistance and to build relationships in Congress so we are filibuster proof and have the leverage we need to fight back in this moment. That's what is going to make us win. And that's how we're ultimately going to get a statehood, but also a free DC to protect our residents every single day.
Thank you, Candidate George. Candidate Goodweather, please.
You know, it's really amazing that she mentioned 2 of the worst mayors in the country as models, Baltimore and Chicago. There really are no good templates there for her to model her campaign after.
Here's the thing. Washington, D.C. is unique. We're better. We have more resources in our city than any other city in the United States to defend our residents, protect our residents. We have the highest educated workforce in the country. We have some of the most incredible organizing capabilities. I think we've seen it here today with Free DC. What you have done here today
1 minute.
is miraculous. And this is also where we need to utilize all of Free DC's and all of our city's resources to be able to turn activism into advocacy for all of our residents. And we are already in every level of the federal government. Workers are residents here. And how much time do I have?
30 seconds.
And I will tell you that in terms of being able to get more for our residents, this is where the DC government needs to be able to create opportunities for our residents. We need together to be able to defend ourselves and utilize our resources to get more.
Thank you, Candidate Goodweather. Thank you. Candidate Ford, you're next.
So one of the things that I liked with what happened in Minnesota was when Minneapolis and Twin Cities, they basically shut down the economy. And it was planned, it was organized very well. And everybody stood down ICE. And then you saw within hours after that, the federal government left. Because they said, we won't go to work, we won't go to school until you get up out of here.
1 minute.
So that level of organization, I liked the way the city officials coordinated that, and that took a very unified effort. There were no stars in that. There were no viral moments from that because of the bloodshed and all of that. They knew they were dealing with something very serious. So I liked the unity in that, and we need a leader as mayor. I would unify the city. We need a leader who can bring us together so we can raise up a resistance like that. The other thing that we need to use in talking about resources, we have a bar here that has over 100,000 lawyers. And for those of you who didn't know, the president actually started going after law firms here in DC because of the financial power that they have to do pro bono work for immigrants and other constitutional causes. And he threatened to ban us from, courthouses and things like that so that we couldn't go to court and defend our clients. And so we need to engage that bar. I'm an active member at that bar. I was just with the DC bar CEO for the last 3 days. So we need to utilize the resources that we already have and people who would do that work for us for free to help us raise up a resistance to this president. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Ford. Thank you.
And that's really amazing that she wants to shut down the economy, modeling it after the Minnesota protests. Again, you have a bunch of low-income, unemployed black people, and one of her goals is to shut down the economy. I mean, this is just ridiculous talk here.
Thank you very much. Candidate McDuffie.
As I mentioned on day one, we're going to repeal the executive order that permits cooperation between the Metropolitan Police Department with ICE. All right? We're going to do that on day one so that it's crystal clear what DC values really are. We're going to make sure that we strengthen the mayor's office of legal counsel so that we can prepare to litigate where necessary. And there's going to be greater collaboration between the mayor's office and the office of the attorney general when it comes to the type of litigation that can use the Constitution and the DC Home Rule Charter to make sure that we're defending residents of Washington, D.C. But we're also going to make sure that we recognize that DC isn't like those other places. DC is not New York City. DC is not Chicago. DC is not San Francisco. Some people want to run on empty promises that they can't deliver. I'm asking voters to check the receipts. People around this country are asking that ICE wear body cameras. Well, I legislated the District of Columbia's body-worn camera law. It's one thing to start running for office and then start introducing bills. It's something altogether different to say, look at my receipts and see what I've done.
5 seconds.
Do not fall for the banana in the tailpipe. Do not fall for the banana in the tailpipe. This campaign ain't about rhetoric, it's about results.
Thank you, candidate McDuffie. We want to keep moving with the questions.
This is really amazing to hear these group of black people talk about results and stuff like that. And then you look at the communities, the neighborhoods that they represented for years and years, and they haven't been able to change those around. But now if you just give them the keys to the city, everything will be made good. All of the promises that they're making, they will be able to fulfill them. Amazing hubris here.
Keep moving.
Hey, y'all, for real, we got to keep it because we got another forum to do and we want to be respectful of time. I know everybody's sized, but let's be respectful so we can get to the next questions.
And she said everybody's sized, for real. You can see down at the bottom, it's just like a lesbian-looking woman, long dreadlocks. It takes repeating that again.
We got to keep it because we got another forum to do and we want to be respectful of time. I know everybody's sized, but let's be respectful so we can get to the next.
Everybody's sized, that's like a DC lingo, sized being everybody's kind of excited,
Next questions. Thank you. Sergeant at Arms, y'all. Nene from Southeast.
Thank you, Nene. So, the next question. The average income for Black DC residents is $40,000 to $60,000, while the citywide average is more than $100,000. When you cross the Anacostia River, the average Black income drops. We want to hear your plan to disrupt systemic poverty and income inequality. And to further articulate that, what are the 4 key areas you will focus on to shift resources, change policies, and redistribute power? And we're going to start with Ward 8 resident candidate Ford.
Thank you. I love this question.
It's an interesting question here. They're talking about redistributing power, presumably across the river where I am.
One of the issues in our city, and many of us in this room already know this, is that our adult illiteracy rate is at 40%. That is a staggering number, and it's grown worse under the current administration that we have, the current mayoral administration. And so we can't keep ignoring the need to address literacy in our city, because that's directly tied to outcomes, it's directly tied to income, it's directly tied to everything. Right now, as I sit here, I know that the test scores for students in grades 3 through 8, CAS, what I'm talking about, 75% of our students are failing. They're not meeting benchmark in literacy, and they're not meeting benchmark in math. 75%, thanks LaJoy, 75%. Okay, those are not public. That what I'm giving you, you're not here, you will not find the stats that I just gave you, you will not find them on the DCPS website.
30 seconds.
Okay, I know that these are the records because I've represented educators. Okay, and they come to me and they talk to me, and they show me things. But we are failing our kids. Under the current regime, the council, the mayor, we're failing them. So one of the things I want to do is reinstitute reading specialists in our schools. We need to also balance these equities. We need to bring back reading specialists, but we need to balance these equities between Ward 3 because they have the better outcomes
5
than Ward 7 and 8. So the resources need to be shifted. Poverty is not a learning disability, y'all. Y'all quiet up in here. I know we in church and all of that, but poverty is not a learning.
Poverty may not be a learning disability, but learning disabilities lead to poverty. That's the angle that I don't think these people want to consider. They're faced with all the statistics to show you that there's something else other than racism, institutionalized failures. There's something else going on that the people east of the river are doing so much more poorly than everyone else. These people don't want to consider. Could it be IQ?
Disability. We have a resource issue. It's not a learning disability issue.
Yes,
So those
that has you right on cue there. We have a resource issue, not a learning disability issue.
resources need to shift, and we need to do an audit. I know people don't like audits, but I'm a lawyer. I like audits. I want to know. Give me the data as to who's making decisions to shift these resources where, and they need to be reallocated to the schools that actually need them, and the teachers that are breaking their backs to try to teach these kids, and the families too. I'm sorry, I went over.
Thank you so much, candidate Ford. Thank you so much, candidate McDuffie.
And again, this is the same lady that said that we should shut down the economy. She also says that we don't have a learning disability issue east of the river. We have a resource issue. Just give those people more resources, and you'll see how they turn their life around.
Next.
Washington, D.C. has the widest racial wealth gap of any city in these United States. White wealth in Washington, D.C. is 81 times the amount of median black wealth. All right? I didn't wait to announce my candidacy for mayor to start doing something about it. What I did was author a landmark Racial Equity Achieved Results Act to establish the council's Office on Racial Equity so that every bill that's coming through the council gets measured with a racial equity impact assessment so we know who's being marginalized and what the impact of the law is going to be. As mayor, I'm going to actually fund the mayor's Office on Racial Equity to make sure that we're using performance-based metrics to deliver the resources to the people with the greatest needs. And it's not just a promise that I'm making to get your vote for mayor. I did it when I introduced the first guaranteed basic income pilot in this city's history. We directed cash assistance to pregnant and expecting moms in wards 5, 7, and 8 through that measure. I also did it with baby bonds, where we established trust funds for babies born into cycles of poverty in Washington, D.C.
5 seconds, 5 seconds.
I funded it for 4 years straight. And the first thing I'm going to do when I'm mayor is to make sure that every child born in the poverty district of Columbia gets a trust fund so that they can have hope and opportunity that they can stay in the city that we love.
And there is the last mayoral candidate's response on how they're going to work to dismantle systemic poverty. What should be noted is two of them, the man and the Janice George, as he said, he's been in office 13 years with no results yet. No ability to handle this growing racial divide, and no interest or curiosity in trying to figure out why the racial divide exists. We'll finish up the last part of this forum, but I think this is a good place to take a break here. Once again, I am John Galt. This is just the first take on some of the mayoral forum here in Washington, D.C., and you can see the quality and the caliber of the candidates, which closely resemble kind of a YouTube panel. Once again, thanks for joining.